We're holding the line for Australia. We support 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 Australia.
Oh God, please, please come and save us. America, please save Australia. I'm stuck here under vaccine communism. Come and save Australia, you fucking Seppo dogs. Come and save us from having a fraction of your enormous death rate, please. I'm stuck here. It's full communism. Seriously though, a heartfelt thanks from me on behalf of all Australians for the group of anti-vaxxers who showed up in New York the other day to protest vaccine mandates and to offer to save Australia. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate that you took time off from shooting each other in the streets, dying in the gutter because you're unable to afford private health care, and pretending that your president who lost the last election won the last election for a moment in order to offer to save us. Perhaps to save us, you could bomb us like you do every brown and black-skinned person on the planet. But to be fair, our white supremacist colony helps your white supremacist empire in doing that, so I guess I don't really get to talk.
Now, what's going on in Australia is not just going to be Australia. And when it shows up on our doorsteps, we're going to punch it right in the fucking teeth.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot the vaccine in the fucking face. We're gonna go full Bruce Willis on it. We're gonna bomb it. We're gonna punch it right in the fucking teeth and then blow its fucking head off. America! We know what we mean by vaccine mandate, don't we? So when I listen to these people on the street, whether they be pilled people in America or Australia, and you see them talk about vaccine mandates, you kind of do get the impression, and they thrive on this impression, mind you, that they're talking about being strapped down and forced to take a vaccine. Now, no one's sane or libertarian in the real sense at all. No one left libertarian would ever support that. And there you go, there's your answer. I don't support forced physical vaccination. What Australia does, and what increasingly America is starting to do too, is not forced physical vaccination. It's called nudge policy or negative incentivization, forcing you or pressuring you through consequences into getting a vaccine. Now remember, Australia has already been doing nudge policy. Remember that if you didn't get a series of jabs for your infant child, then you wouldn't be able to send that child to mainstream schooling, or you wouldn't be able to access a series of Centrelink benefits, family assistance benefits for that child. We've already done that. And there's already been a range of concerns that I've had, that many people have had about that. One of the main things there is that you worry about what polls or isolated columns of communities outside of mainstream society you're creating in the long term. We've seen lots of people migrate over to areas like Mullumbimby, when the usual vaccination rate for children is 90% or higher across the nation. It's something in the region of 70% there, and that's because you've got lots of anti-vaxxers who've been moving to those Northern Rivers areas. And of course our worry there, our big worry, is for those children. What happens when measles outbreaks occur? You can't reach these people. They create childcare services for themselves. They homeschool. They separate from the rest of society. You got to worry about the people, the children, who don't have any say in that, don't you? For better or worse, that's always been my worry with government nudge policy. What our government is now doing is adding to those list of negative incentivisations or nudge policies, industry mandates and employer mandates, so that if you're an essential worker, for example, in Victoria right now, you're going to have to get the vaccine after the middle of October in order to go to work. Otherwise, presumably you lose your job, which is a huge pressure point, of course. And also in the future, there's the discussion of vaccine passports, being that, for example, you wouldn't be able to travel interstate or to other areas if you didn't have proof that you'd been vaccinated. Another huge pressure point. There's so many negative incentivisations that whilst you're not being strapped down by men in white trench coats and masks and enforced an injection, you are basically so isolated if you don't go and get one, or you will be eventually, that there's an extremely high degree of pressure to get one. And that, in short, is why we urgently need saving by a gaggle of red-pilled seppos. I think it's worth reflecting for a moment on why so many of these corny seppo anti-vaxxer dogs are so prone to be tricked by this ideology of medical libertarianism. You know, the idea of reappropriating bodily autonomy arguments away from real shit like abortion and applying them to public health crises, which fucking naturally require a collectivist response, i.e. everyone take a vaccine that's now been proven to be safe so that we can get out of this virus and minimise our risk of spreading it to everyone else and fucking killing them. Why are they so prone to medical libertarianism? And I would say to you, look at their fucking nation. It's written on the wall. You know? They're in a mercenary capitalist hawker economy. Their drugstores are lined, filled to the brim with quack medication because their FDA has been completely sold out to big dietary supplement snake oil salesmen. And those drugstores are fucking everywhere and they're huge. And they have to be, because people there cannot afford private healthcare. They end up with no other option but to try and save themselves with fake vitamins and shit. For many broke and desperate people in America, the only option for them is to try and participate in the con ideology and grift on offer to all of them. The one real American dream on offer, which is Ponzi schemes masquerading as multi-level marketing. Another con that has been given the rubber stamp by their government. And when they try to do something as radical as saying, for example, oh, maybe we should stop selling anti-tank missile launchers in convenience stores to 5-year-old children, then big corporate lobbying interests like Big Gun wheel out such a degree of unchecked expenditure that they bamboozle people to the degree that suddenly all these people on the street believe that a fundamental human right is about to be taken away from them. This country is completely at the behest of corporate tyrants and lobbyists.
That means that we're free. If I don't have the right to my body, then I am a slave.
Our country is doing its level fucking best to head in exactly the same direction as America, but they are behind them, thank fuck. And in one respect, we're very different to them in that we have a functioning, basic medical welfare net. Could be better, but it nevertheless is there. So medical libertarianism shouldn't really apply here in the same way that it does over there, given our history. However, everyone's on the internet and virality and social media spectacle is the prevailing logic of the entire world these days. So when the seppos click their fingers, we try to dance to their tune, the more lonely and internet-pilled among us anyway. So they've given us their greatest cultural export, medical libertarianism, for the duration of the pandemic. Thanks, Seppoland. Please, come and do a school shooting on all of our politicians. I know how good you Seppo dogs are at that sort of thing, please. Please, come and help us join an MLM. Please. There's a real pandemic on. Apparently a controversial thing to say, but it is what I think. And so I think it's really important that everyone get a vaccine which is by now proven to be safe in order to get us all through the pandemic, because after all, it's also proven to limit the spread and the contagion of coronavirus in the body. It's not perfect, but we're in a very imperfect situation, aren't we? So I just want to clear that up. I definitely do think that, and I definitely do realise that the coronavirus and the pandemic is real. So let's be clear on that. Apparently we need to be these days. Am I enthused by the prospect of Big Daddy government being the ones to enforce these series of negative incentivisations and mandates? No, I'm not, because they're similar to the concerns that I said I already had with other government nudge policy and negative incentivisations earlier. I worry about the poles and the communities that it creates outside of mainstream society. After all, now you're going to get people moving to the fucking, I don't know, areas like the Northern Rivers who also don't work
unless they work with other anti-vaxxers, or they don't travel unless they travel to areas where there are other anti-vaxxers. And what do their kids do when the novel coronavirus hits those communities, or fucking measles or polio for that matter? What about their poor fucking kids, the people who don't get a say? Furthermore, I can see the writing on the wall. You know, these mandates, when they're issued by big daddy government, they help to valorise these anti-vaxxers. They make them feel like they're fucking freedom warriors, and they get to look like that in front of an ever-growing audience as well. My ideal vision for how we get out of the pandemic is that collective institutions, community institutions, and industries and the like, all enforce mandates on each other. I want to be the one to mandate my friends to get the thing. And no, I don't mean forced physical vaccination, although to be honest, sometimes I think about pinning some of the fucking cunts down. But, you know, I restrain that. I'll probably get charged for that as well. I want to be the one in my community to convince the people around me. I want institutions to do the same thing. Take this recent example of someone who should have taken responsibility for the health and safety of people under their watch, and instead they sat on the fucking fence until the anti-vaxxers became a real problem for them. I'm talking about John Setka of the CFMEU. Did anyone think that perhaps if Setka had said the only way you can be a CFMEU member going forward and do one of our union jobs is if you get a vaccine, because that's important for the collective health and safety of people in our union and people in the construction industry, do you think that those anti-vax rallies outside his headquarters would have looked a little bit different? I reckon he probably would have looked a little bit stronger, don't you think? Beyond that, employers, industry orgs, community organisations and the like, any sort of membership, any group. I think these mandates need to be coming from community groups, bodies, people, leaders, institutions, as a matter of looking out for each other. We need to be seeing that pressure from all around, not from big daddy government. And I know that our big daddy government are going to do it because they already did that kind of thing with infant vaccines. They're going to go there. But we know this is a public health crisis and we need to be supporting each other and, yes, pushing each other over the line to get out of it instead of waiting for them to go and do the fucking inevitable. But what's more, we need to see ourselves as global citizens here and see nations in that way too. Because we know by now what happens if you let poorer nations succumb to the virus en masse. Not only do millions of people die, but new variants are born that come back to haunt us later on. In order to get past that, it doesn't matter whether we're all single or double jabbed to 80% or more in our territory or our state or our nation even. We need the entire planet to be double jabbed before we're going to see ourselves on the other end of the pandemic as it currently is now. And we're going to need booster shots for people. And we're going to need these new antiviral drugs distributed across the planet to people. That's the only way we're getting out of this. And if that's going to take years, well, then the pandemic is going to take years. And any so-called libertarian in the American right libertarian sense who says that they're for freedom above the jab and that kind of thing. Well, if they have a better idea, instead of fucking whinging as to how you can get people on board as opposed to having big daddy government mandate these things, if they have a better idea for how they can get their own fucking people who they should be responsible for on board, then perhaps they'd like to come up with it. Or, if they prefer, these pro-choice libertarians could just keep on attacking nurses and destroying COVID testing stations and abusing people in restaurants and that kind of thing. No worries. Please bring your anti-tank missile launchers. Come and bring them and shoot nurses. Please, we need saving. It's full triple fascism, mega communism here. Come and shoot all of our nurses, please.